An Arizona man held 11 National Guard soldiers at gunpoint as they were transporting COVID-19 vaccines in West Texas. Now, police have reported that it appeared as though the man was mentally disturbed. Larry Harris is the name of the suspect here. He's from Wilcox, Arizona, and he was later found with a loaded pistol, and he was following these National Guardsmen for about 2 miles. Here is his image, which there it is. Also, police say that Harris attempted multiple times to run the vans off the roadway. He then turned his vehicle into oncoming traffic on the highway and stopped the vans. He then pointed a gun at an unarmed National Guardsman, identified himself as a detective, and demanded to search the vehicles and ordered the rest of the unarmed guardsmen out of their vehicles at gunpoint. Luckily, no one was hurt, and some of you might be wondering, all right, well, what was the motive here? Well, he claimed that he thought that the authorities were not authorities, that they were not National Guard soldiers, but they were engaging in criminal activity. Harris told police he thought the people in the vans had kidnapped a woman and child. All 11 of the guardsmen were in uniform. None of the guardsmen were injured, luckily, and none of them were armed. So just one quick quote, one of the police chief in the area said this: Mr. Harris appeared to be mentally disturbed. This was a very dangerous situation since the suspect was standing in the midst of the unarmed guardsmen with a loaded weapon when the cops arrived to the scene. It is kind of amazing though, how he was, detained without getting hurt. Cops arrived. Obviously, the cops are well armed, but they were able to detain him. I'm happy that they detained him. I'm happy that he wasn't shot and killed, and he'll be brought to justice and prosecuted. I just wish that, all suspects were afforded the same type of treatment. In this case, you have a guy who's holding 11 National Guard soldiers at gunpoint. And when the police arrived, they somehow miraculously had the ability to detain him without shooting him to death. It's fascinating.
Now I can't quite put my finger on quite why that would be, but I will say this, Anna, as a guy who can't grow a beard, if you guys can see at home, it just grows in blotchy patches. I'm so freaking jealous of this Harris guy. He has an incredible beard and he's wasting it on holding National Guardsmen hostage. Has this guy never been on Twitter and not know that he could be cleaning up out there with that beautiful, full, bushy beard? Some people just get all the breaks, and they don't get killed by the cops or the army when they pull out guns on them. And they have the ability to just grow these lush, beautiful beards, man. It's crazy. Mr. Harris, get your priorities in order, man. Get you some dates from Twitter. I'm telling you, I could put you on to some people, brother.
So he had a .45 caliber pistol with him. He also had an additional loaded magazine on his person, and another loaded magazine in his truck. And that's the problem. I mean, on one hand, you have the cops claiming that he was mentally disturbed. That's what they're saying. That hasn't been confirmed, but the fact that he was willing to hold 11 National Guard soldiers at gunpoint because he thought that they had kidnapped a wife and a child, I think that there's probably some indication that he's mentally disturbed. The problem is he has access. He has the ability to access this type of weaponry, right? So do we have a problem with mental health in America that goes undiagnosed, untreated because we have a broken healthcare system? Yes. You couple that with the fact that we're swimming in a sea of guns and you're in a disastrous situation. And it doesn't matter if cops get shot and killed, as one cop just got shot and killed in Boulder, Colorado, when that Super's grocery store was shot up by a 21-year-old. Doesn't matter if literal National Guard soldiers are being threatened with gun violence. You still do not see a change in the discourse that takes place in this country on the issue of gun legislation. You still have Republicans, you still have the GOP who love to use cops, who love to use soldiers as props to make their arguments. Never see them actually do what it takes to not only save their lives, but to save all of our lives, to protect our lives. That is literally the only role for government, right? To protect its citizens. And they're unwilling to do that because, hey, gun manufacturers, they gotta look after their bottom line. They gotta make sure that everyone, including mentally disturbed, mentally ill people, have access to these guns. Great.
Yeah, it's just example after example after example. And you don't even have to search far and wide. This stuff is basically happening on a daily, if not weekly basis, right? And so, we illustrate these points at the beginning of the show, and it's not very hard for producer Brett and the rest of the TYT super team to just pull up stuff like, look, here goes another thing, here goes another thing. It's so easy because it's so frequent. It's embarrassing, quite frankly.
And I do think it's important to talk about just how serious mental health, the mental health aspect of this story is in America, a country that does not provide the proper treatment and healthcare for people. 19% of adults in the United States are experiencing a mental illness. That is the equivalent to over 47 million Americans, 57%, or over 26 million of adults with a mental illness receive no treatment because guess what? Receiving treatment costs money. Receiving treatment means that you would need health insurance, which many people lost during the pandemic as a result of layoffs. And even if you have insurance, it's really difficult to find an insurance company, a private insurance provider that's willing to foot the bill for mental health treatment because mental health treatment is treated differently than physical ailments. And I think that's an issue as well, right? As if, since it's a mental health issue, since it's hidden, it's not physically noticeable in some cases, people are left to deal with paranoia, depression, anxiety, all sorts of awful things that go undiagnosed, untreated. And again, you deal with a country full of guns and it's just a recipe for disaster. So in this case, luckily it's a positive ending. No one got hurt. Hopefully this man will get the treatment he needs. Hopefully he'll be brought to justice because what he did was dangerous and criminal. But this is not an isolated case. As you guys know, these stories happen far too often with far more tragic outcomes.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.